Welcome, everybody. I am Sarah Chavez. I'm one of the owners here at Kokuavida, and today we have Dr. Christina Campbell with us. And today we're going to be talking about stem cells. So I'm really excited because I don't know much about this subject. So Dr. Campbell is here to educate us. Dr. Campbell, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an osteopathic trained physician, board certified in emergency medicine, certified in functional medicine, mitochondrial biophysics, and endocannabinoid medicine. I have 25 plus years of clinical experience. I currently have a functional medicine practice in the telehealth space. And my passion lies around helping people to find natural methods to improve their health, wellness, and vitality.
Okay, so I love that. And if you're listening to this today, you guys, this is just for educational purposes only. Get back to your regular doctor to ask questions if you have any medical concerns, but we are just here to educate. So, with that being said, Dr. Christina, we are going to jump in. And let's start from the basics because like I said, I know nothing. What are stem cells and why are they important?
Yes. So, and they're kind of a buzzword now, but it used to be in 2001 and earlier, we thought in medicine that stem cells were only in the bone marrow as adults and they only helped with replacing our blood cells. But since then, we've learned a lot more. So, what are stem cells? Stem cells are they're cells that can become any cell. So the ultimate stem cell, of course, is the embryonic stem cell. When you think about the egg and the sperm coming together at time of conception, that makes one cell that divides into two, that divides into four, and 8, and 16, and 32, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, that single cell becomes all of this, right? Which is pretty amazing.
That is a
Now, right? So as adults, we don't have embryonic stem cells per se, but we have these partially what's called differentiation. So when a cell is a stem cell, it hasn't differentiated into the tissue it's meant to become yet. So it could become a bone marrow cell. It could become a brain cell. It could become a spleen cell. It could become a liver cell. It could become a skin cell. It could become pretty much anything. And we maintain these stem cells. There are different types of them, but the places where we hold them as adults in our body are primarily in the bone marrow, also in our adipose tissue, so in our fat tissue. We now know that fat tissue is actually an endocrine organ, so it creates and releases hormones. We know that now. We didn't used to know that. And in the pulp of our tooth and some other places. If you've heard of the vascular theory of aging, then you're aware that we have stem cells on the ends of all of our vessels, all over our body. They sit there just kind of waiting for something to do, waiting for something to go wrong. They're basically our repair system. So most of you who've seen me talk here know I love mitochondria because that's where we get our cellular energy, and that's what helps our cells to function correctly. But when we're repairing cells, we need these stem cells to do the repair. So if there's an area of the body that's inflamed because there's an injury there, or there's something going on where there's a cell that needs help, there are cytokines, there are proteins and chemicals that are released by the damaged cells that call to our bone, or to our stem cells from our bone marrow, call to our stem cells from our vasculature to come and repair and become whatever tissue it is that is damaged. So, for example, if you had a traumatic brain injury and now you have some damage to your nerve cells, you're going to have those nerve cells that are inflamed and trying to repair are going to release certain chemical signatures that will call to those stem cells, and those stem cells can then become new brain cells.
Oh, wow.
Right? So when you say why are they important,
Wow.
you can't repair your body without them. And the other thing that most people don't realize is, like, I'm 53 years old, but my heart is not 53 years old. My brain is not 53 years old. My skin is not 53 years old. And that's because we are constantly turning over our cells and renewing them. So we break them down and we renew them. That's how we continue to live as long as we do. And without that, we wouldn't survive this long. So we are turning over our cells constantly. The intestinal lining can completely turn over all of its cells, within a couple of weeks.
Oh,
So we are constantly breaking down and rebuilding, breaking down and rebuilding, breaking down and rebuilding. That is the whole healing and repair process of the body. And there are different mechanisms by which that happens. And we talk about some of them in isolation, but they're all one big, large mechanism. But the stem cells themselves are the cells that come and then differentiate into whatever cell it is that it needs to become in order to make that repair and regeneration.
that's almost like the human body was designed on purpose, huh?
What?
That's that's remarkable. I have a question listening to you say all this. Is there a way to create new stem cells or create more stem cells in the body? And if
Yes.
so, how do we do that?
That is a really great question. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. And most of them are things that we know we should be doing to stay healthy, right?
Uh,
Um, the important parts first, I want to make the point that as we age, the number of stem cells that are held in our bone marrow that are in our body reduce over time. And in part, that makes sense because when we're babies and we're still developing, right? We haven't even gone through puberty yet, right? Like we have a lot of changes and turnover, cellular turnover when we're developing as little kids, right?
right.
Into young kids, into young adults, into adults. There's a lot of turnover. So we have a lot of stem cells when we're very young. And you can look this up on PubMed too, or you can, read about this, but there's a process called yellowing of the bone marrow. And basically what that is reflecting is that reduction in the number of stem cells that we have as we get older. And we're out of this developing phase where we're constantly moving and turning and developing and moving and turning and developing, right?
Right.
But once we're young adults, even by the age of 15, the number of stem cells that we have is beginning to reduce. By the time we reach 30, it's significantly reduced. That's why a lot of people hit 30 and they're like, you know what? Like I twisted my ankle and I did that before and it used to heal really fast and I was fine. And now it takes a while longer to heal. So you begin to notice that when you hit your 30s, it's a conversation that tends to happen. By the time we're 50, we have even fewer. So anything we can do to release more of those stem cells into circulation so that they can go and find the areas that need repair, the better off we are. So one of the things, I mean, there's lots of things. So one of the things that we can do is anything that reduces inflammation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. High intensity interval training exercise. So certain types of exercise are known to release stem cells from the bone marrow,
Oh, really?
right?
So
So
that's
there
like
are,
the ones that get your heart rate up, the high intensity.
so high intensity interval is kind of like uh 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. High intensity, like to the point of feeling like puking and then stopping for 20 seconds and then doing that again. And so you're really only exercising for 10 to 20 minutes total, but you're doing this in a cycle where you're doing a really intense and then giving your body a minute to recover and then really intense and then recover. So it's called HIIT or HIIT or high intensity interval training. And you can look that up and kind of get an idea of what that looks like or what that can look like. Um, but that is a specific type of exercise that has been shown to release stem cells. What is fascinating to me, though, is that there are some foods, there are some supplements, there are some things that can help, and one of them is CBD. And I found some really incredible articles that I want to share with you guys. But what has been found in the most recent, and again, 2001, before that, we didn't even realize that these stem cells were doing all of this.
Right.
So understand this is new science. This is relatively new science. And in CBD and endocannabinoid research, this is really new as well. So there's a lot more that we need to learn. But what we're seeing in the research and the literature is that, as a broad reaching statement, CBD can help to increase how many stem cells we release from a bone marrow, can increase it's called migration, but migration into the tissue that needs repair, as well. So proliferation, that's the fancy term. It just means making more. And migration, which means going to where it needs to go. CBD helps with both of those things. Pretty
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
amazing. So how does that work? Are you're going to share a study with us?
Yeah, let me share, if it's okay, to give me power, let me share
Yeah,
screen and
yeah.
I will show you a few studies that I pulled, and just kind of briefly go over what they showed, but I think it's really interesting. Okay, and don't laugh at how many tabs I have open. It's just that I am always doing a million things at once. My kids are always laughing at me. Let's see. Uh, where's the one where it lets me show everything? I think this is it. All right. Hopefully, yep. Okay. And let me get rid of Facebook, which I don't need right now. Okay. All right. So I think this was the first one, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is looking at mesenchymal stem cells. Those are the adult stem cells, right?
Right.
That's the fancy term for them. Or MSC, you'll see MSC sometimes out there. But this is showing specifically the pathways by which cannabidiol, so CBD specifically, can activate and increase stem cell activity, not only proliferation, but migration.
Oh,
And I can put links to some of these articles if you guys want me to into the
yes.
comments afterwards, or I'll just send them to you, Sarah, in an email. Maybe you could post them when you
Yeah.
put this out there.
Great. Yes.
So you guys can look at some of these, but um, it basically is talking about the significant impact that CBD can have in improving our ability to use the stem cells that we have and increasing numbers. So it increases proliferation and migration. So that's what we're looking at here. And I don't want to belabor this because you guys can read these on your own since we're going to share them. But I want to show you in broad reaching categories, right? This is talking about neurodegenerative disorders and the ability of cannabidiol, so CBD again. And some of these articles say marijuana, but they're talking about CBD, so it's a
Right.
little confusing. I think they mean to use the word cannabis instead of marijuana, but they did what they did in the title.
Right.
So when you see that, that's not what I'm talking about. The point of the articles all talk about CBD specifically. So cannabidiol. This one in particular is increasing the ability of these stem cells to convert into new neurons, to improve the activity of neural stem cells that we have, and to reduce some of the neuropathological hallmarks of this disease. So it actually can help reduce the tau protein formation, or can reverse some of that, help the body to reverse some of that. Let me put that better.
Wow.
So it helps to improve our own stem cell activity, basically. In part, it does that by reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, which both of those things are part of what damages our stem cells. So anything we can do that will reduce inflammation and reduce oxidative stress can improve our stem cell activity and migration. Now, I say that and I hesitate because a certain amount of oxidative stress is important because it's what signals our body to repair. So when we exercise, we create oxidative stress. We do that on purpose because it allows us to build muscle and to improve our cardiac capabilities, et cetera. So a certain amount of oxidative stress is good, but most of us have way, way, way too much, and it's impacting our ability to use our stem cells. So that's what this article specifically talks about. And this is an interesting one. So this is in regards to, now people, when we talk about stem cells, most people first think about stem cell therapy. When you go to a clinic and they put an IV in, or they take some of your blood and harvest it and then increase the numbers and then inject it back into a joint. And there's all kinds of different types of stem cell therapies. So that's usually, when we say stem cells, that's usually what people think about. They also think about $10,000, $20,000 in the back of the mind, right? It's immediate. Oh, that's really expensive. I can't do that. But the truth is that our stem cells are here all the time, right? We have them. Now, we can inject more because that can be helpful for some conditions, right? And if we have the money to do that, great. But there's a lot of natural things that we can do to increase our own stem cell activity. And I'm actually going to be doing a webinar and then a mini course coming up. So I'll send you guys that information too. So if you're interested, you can come check that out. It's going to be in a lot more detail and a lot more suggestions and interesting topics around this. But this particular paper is talking about, along with stem cell therapies, meaning you're injecting it IV or you're injecting it into a joint or an area or under a muscle or around a skin blemish or an area, wrinkles. I mean, they're using it in all kinds of places. So this is showing if you prime the stem cells with CBD versus THC. So they isolated CBD, they isolated THC. With one set of patients, they did stem cell therapy, priming it with CBD. One set, they primed it with THC, and the other one, they just did stem cells. And then they had a, like nobody got nothing. They thought they did, but they didn't. And then they did the comparison. And what they found was that by priming it with CBD, they were able to increase the migration. So the ability of stem cells to find where they need to go to do the repair by 180%.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
That's huge.
Yeah. And that was for mesenchymal stem cells. And then for, adipose based stem cells. And then for bone-based stem cells, it increased by 93%. On the other hand, the THC priming induced migration by 91% of the adipose tissue stem cells and 44% in the bone marrow stem cells. So a broad spectrum or a full spectrum, when you guys know I love full spectrum, but a broad spectrum high dose CBD product is going to help with all of this inside of your own body, whether you're combining it with stem cell therapy that you're paying for from outside your body, or whether you're combining it with other things you're doing to improve your own stem cell activity. And really, we should, if we could, we would love to do all of that. But does that make sense? So pretty impressive.
That's
pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's huge impressive. So just touching back a little bit on the CBD, you guys can go to kokuavida.com and shop our doctor formulated CBD. And the reason why our CBD is so fantastic is because the doctors were in on that. And we have a higher amount than normal, do we not?
Yes, we sure do. We have 6,000 milligrams in one bottle. I mean, on a BOGO, right? On a buy one, get one. This company has one of the highest quality, actually the highest quality CBD that I have ever personally used myself. I will tell you, it is important to get a high quality CBD for many, many reasons. And we've talked about this in the past, but having a COA as well, which you can see complete transparency on our website, a certificate of authenticity, which is essentially a third-party lab test that tells you what's in it, what's not in it, and important that it's clean and non-toxic. So that's really important. And we'll tell you which cannabinoids are in there as well, usually. So pretty amazing. And our price point compared to other companies on the market really makes this available to the everyday person, which is part of why I love sharing this, because so many companies price it out of the range of what most people can do. This allows most people to be able to stretch to get this in their body. And, jumpstarting your endocannabinoid system does so many beautiful things for your body. Today, we're talking about stem cells, but every week we talk about all the different things that it can do for us. And it's really, really broad reaching and impressive. And I've, for many, many years, you've heard me say, there are very few things that I recommend to just about everyone because it can help with just about everything. It is very few things that I can say that about. CBD, our CBD is one of those. And I find that to be really impressive. So let me jump into the rest of these studies so I can make sure we share them all. I know we're kind of running out of time here a little bit. This one is specifically talking about the difference between high dose and low dose CBD and migration out of the bone marrow and into tissues. Both of them show a significant increase. Adipose stem cell migration increased by 412% with low dose CBD and 251% with high dose CBD. So you can see the differences here. And again, we'll share these studies with you, but these are big numbers. Really big numbers. So I am endless. Again, I'm endlessly impressed. It also shows that it helps with proliferation. Remember, proliferation means increasing numbers. So it increases the ability of those stem cells to get where they need to go. And it also increases the total number of stem cells that we're able to use in our bodies. And that's impressive.
Wow.
And you can see these numbers here they're not anything to laugh at. 48%, 86%, 49%, 78%. And these are at different times.
Wow.
And then at the bottom, it's talking about wound closure. So this particular study was in regards to wound therapies. So talking about how much faster wound closure will be if we can activate and move these stem cells where they need to go to repair that tissue, which is pretty impressive. So the low dose CBD showed 49% faster wound closure at 20 hours and 78% at 44 hours than your average wound healing. That's pretty impressive.
Dr. Campbell, this is huge when you see
Right?
this.
Yeah.
Like, these are studies that have been done, so you know that it's accurate. Why would anybody not want to be taking CBD in the morning and in the evening?
100%. I
It's
don't
a
know.
game changer.
Everyone should take it. Everyone should take it. Okay, let me keep plugging forward here. So actually this is out of order. So this is a study talking about how CBD can help with fat-derived mesenchymal stem cells. So stem cells that are being held in fat tissue, and how it can increase and improve metabolic disorder. So one of the biggest issues in our country is diabetes, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorder, obesity. These are all basically things in the same category. And many of you may realize, maybe you don't, that dementia is actually considered type 3 diabetes. That's what we're calling it now.
I
It's
just
actually,
recently learned that. That's
yes.
fascinating.
Yeah, so type 3 diabetes, because it's a result of metabolic syndrome. So anything we can do to improve metabolic syndrome as a general whole is going to be helpful. This particular article shows, and I'll read what I've highlighted here. Recent studies suggest that individuals with metabolic disorders have altered function of fat cells, adipocytes, and the adipose-based stem cells, which impairs tissue homeostasis, promoting insulin resistance and diabetes development. The non-psychoactive phytocannabinoid CBD was found to modulate adipose tissue metabolism. So we knew before, we've seen studies that it increases our brown fat, which we know helps us to lose weight. And there's some other things it does for us along this line. This is a much deeper statement on how CBD can improve our metabolism and help with diabetes, obesity, all these things, right? And it's stated right here in this article. So now
exactly.
this is just a graphic that kind of that they put together in this article that shows what it does and how it works, which is kind of cool. But you can find that in that article when you guys look up the article. And specifically in the conclusions on this paper, it talks about how CBD modulates adipose-based stem cells. That's what ASCs are. Adipose-based stem cell metabolism by promoting their growth, so proliferation.
Yes.
Their multipotency, meaning they can turn into anything, and their viability, meaning they are healthier, more viable, which enhances the whole picture, right?
Right.
That's pretty significant. This is a study that shows that specifically talks about CBD promoting healthy bone. So actually improving our bone marrow based stem cells and their ability to increase or build bone. So osteoporosis is one of the major reasons why women and men both, but especially women as they age,
right.
Lose bone density, have sudden fractures. My mother just went through this. She bent over to make her bed and she all of a sudden broke. She ruptured a thoracic vertebra. It just exploded.
Oh,
so osteoporosis is nothing to laugh at. It will cause all kinds of problems. And if you fall, you break a hip, and that's never a good thing when you're older, right? So it leads to a lot of issues. This is saying very specifically that CBD, specifically cannabidiol, that phytocannabinoid, can promote osteogenic differentiation of bone marrow, which means that it builds bone. That's basically what it's saying, right?
Right.
Pretty impressive.
Forget milk then, right? I'm
Yeah, no, I'm not, yeah,
I know, but I'm
that's
saying
a whole conversation.
that's a whole nother
That's
conversation.
a whole nother conversation and a whole nother conspiracy. But anyway,
Right, that's what I was
don't
making
get me
a joke
started.
about that because that's all we heard growing up. But really, the more that you learn and you see studies and what really truly helps, it's
Yeah,
remarkable to see.
right, right. So this is again another study that's talking about how it improves bone building. Um, anyway, so and I don't want to belabor because I know we're running out of time. This one is talking about how it can actually improve nervous tissue. So our brains. This is specifically about depressive-like behaviors through the modulation. So cannabidiol prevents depressive-like behaviors, so mood disorders, through the modulation of neural stem cells.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
I
I'm
love that
really
you pulled up all these studies because it says it all.
It does. It does. And you know, I think it helps. Like we have these calls and I can educate all day long and tell you what's in my brain. But when you see it in big bold writing and you can read it for yourself, I think that's really powerful. And you know me, I'm always encouraging people to go look this stuff up for themselves, find the answers themselves. And this kind of helps get your foot in the door, get your toe wet as far as that goes.
Right.
So this is another one talking about the therapeutic effects of cannabidiol. Again, CBD in neural cells, the ability to rebuild neurons, all the different types of neural cells, because there's more than one kind, which makes sense. Um, all the types of neural stem cells are improved using CBD. And this is where I'm aiming. This is why I'm pushing so hard because I want to make sure you guys get to see this amazing table. So this is a table out of that last article that shows what they saw in what CBD specifically can do. So the summary for reported biochemical actions of CBD in neural cells: antioxidation, homeostasis, protection against mitochondrial dysfunction. You know how I love that.
Yes.
Regulation of neural network activity, anti-inflammatory, regulation of microglial activation. Remember, microglia are the lymphatics of the brain. That's what drains the toxins and drains the things out of the brain that need to be gone so that the brain can heal and continue functioning well. Promotion of phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is where you have white cells that go to an area that needs a lot of help. They engulf and remove through the lymphatic system things that need to be engulfed and removed, whatever those might be. Again, microglial migration, so that migration going where they need to go. Apoptosis, which is that self-destruct button. So it improves self-destruction of cells that are misbehaving. That's important too. In the astrocytes, again, another type of cell that's a neural cell that we need to have. Immunosuppression, so it reduces inflammation and modulates the immune system there, regulates the activation of those astrocytes, and anti-inflammatory, homeostasis. Again, same old, same old. But what I want to show you, I got to get this out of my way. Sorry, I need to move the meeting control panel. Oligodendrites, same thing, you know, reduces toxicity, is neuroprotective. And then neural stem cells, it promotes proliferation. So increases the numbers of neural stem cells. It supports their survival. So it increases their viability. It promotes neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is what we need to have our brains working for us until, you know, the end, until the end. And
Right.
that's what we want. We want to have our brain intact the whole time, right?
Right. Right.
Right. And protection against impairment of neurogenesis. So not only does it promote neurogenesis, but it's neuroprotective, um, allowing protection against anything that would impair that process. That's impressive to me.
That's yeah. You said that right there. I mean, if people knew that they had this available to them and why would you not want to take it? I mean, I'm blown away. I want to take some more this morning, just listening after you talk. I'm like gonna run and go get my CBD. Here at Kokuavida, we have an AM PM. And the reason why I love that, Dr. Campbell, is I've noticed a huge difference in myself taking it in the morning. The full spectrum was a little bit much for me to take in the morning. I would get a little bit too relaxed. The broad
Mhm.
spectrum seems to be perfect. But why is it, after looking at all of these articles, why is it important to keep this in your body morning and evening consistently?
Right. So again, another area, as we age, as we have more inflammation, as we are more unhealthy, when we have more diagnosis codes, whatever you want to look at it, as we're more inflamed, our endocannabinoid system is less able to work. So the easiest way to increase our body's cannabinoids, so our endocannabinoid system, endo referring to our own, we make our own cannabinoids. We make cannabis inside of our bodies. We do our own, right?
Right.
It has different names. The cannabinoids have different names when they're coming from a plant versus our own body, because scientists name them different things. That's okay.
Right.
But when as we're aging, we don't make enough of these. And even some young people are being born already not making enough.
Yeah.
Some people who are pregnant already are not making enough. One of the things when we're breastfeeding moms in the first couple of years of life, one of the things that's in breast milk is what? Cannabinoids.
It's
We
crazy when I learned that.
we deliver cannabinoids to our babies.
Right.
One of the really neat feedback mechanisms of that intimate connection between mom and baby is if baby bonks their head, because they're like this, they
Right.
can't,
Right. Yep.
you got to hold their
That's
head up for them, right? They
exactly
can't hold their heads.
right.
They bonk them, they get bonked. And then what happens? That's, have you ever thought about why are all of the growth plates open so that there's room for, right? There's room for a bonk. There's
Right.
room for that bruise to happen. There's a reason that it's not closed all the way. Part of it is delivery because you get
Right.
smooshed. And if you don't have room to move those bones around, you can't come out with a brain that works. So that's part of it. But through development, if you have an injury to your brain as a baby, then you produce a chemical cytokine in your saliva that the breast picks up, and it signals the brain of the mama to make more cannabinoids to feed them back to the child to protect the nerves and to help, now we know, nervous stem cells to improve and be able to heal that baby's brain and make sure that they're okay and they're safe and they can make it through and survive. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is survival. So we now know that that is part of how that happens. So if we're not making enough cannabinoids and our endocannabinoid system is not working for us because of it, then we need to jumpstart that system. We need to turn that car on. We want to run like a Ferrari. We don't want to run like a Pinto, right? You guys remember Pintos?
Yeah.
If you rear end them, they explode. What? Anyway, I had an aunt that had one. We want a Ferrari. We want it to run like a well-oiled machine that can do amazing things and feel amazing and be vital and focused and all those things. Well, when your endocannabinoid system isn't working for you, your cells aren't working, your whole body, it's a master control system. And if your master control system is not working, you're a mess.
Yeah.
The easiest way is to supplement with phytocannabinoids.
And the easiest way to do that, you guys, is go to kokuavida.com. We'll put the link below and check out the studies from Dr. Campbell. This was incredible. I didn't know much about stem cells, and I feel quite educated after today's call. So thank you for this, you guys, and we'll stay tuned for the next call.
And we've just skimmed the surface. So if this interested you, please come to my webinar. It's coming up in a month from now. I'll make sure we share the link to sign up for that. It's a minimal cost, but it's going to go much deeper into a lot of these things. So if you really want to learn in depth, and then it's going to lead into a mini course. If you guys come out of that webinar saying, okay, I want to know even more, I'm really going to go into deep education on this, which I think is really important. And then knowing all the different tools that you have at your disposal that you may not even realize you have, we're going to cover some of those things.
I love that. Thank you for today's call. We'll put that information down below as well, you guys. Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
You bet.